What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another video on Dylan's Trains. Today we have a brand new loco joining the collection, and not one from American soil. Well, you could see it on American soil if you were listening to KCS back in the before it merged with Canadian Pacific. This is a Ontario Northland SD75I, my second actual big EMD road diesel. I probably just because it is a Walthers Mainline one, and I'll get to like where I found this thing in a second. But why did I get out of anything else? The guy who normally does Amtrak, CSX, and Norfolk Southern. Why did you get a Canadian locomotive out of anything? Well, for a few reasons. Number one, my friend, I have like an online friend who's from Canada who sends me pictures all the time of like Canadian National, Via Rail, and just as a general thing for the trains thing. So like, because he knows I told him I like them, love them, I know a lot about them. He sent me pictures of like Canadian National and mainly Via Rail, which I think is really cool. And he said you should he knew about the models, and he said, oh, you should get a Canadian locomotive. And I felt like I agreed with him at some point. Pass it on to yesterday. I went to after work stuff. Went to a model train store in Port Orange, Florida, which is, I believe, Roundhouse Electric South, South Roundhouse Electric Trains, I think it's called. It's pretty. They mainly do primarily O scale, but they do have quite a decent selection for HO. They had some of the new Bachmann -8s. They had some of the new stuff, and I don't know if I don't know how new these Walthers Mainline SD75Is. Hold on, it's just a little dirty. Here we go. SD75Is are, but they are pretty unique. I like the colors on this thing, especially for the first time getting a Canadian locomotive. Just so like in the Ontario Northland Railroad, like a railroad that's kind of like in Ontario, it's a part of Canada. Pretty much it's pretty much the gateway to the Arctic Circle. This railroad is obviously your standard. I think a class 2. I believe it's a class. I haven't done much research, but I think it's a class 2 freight railroad. But it's also a vital lifeline for communities. This is the only one of the only few railroads that actually has a flag stop. So flag stops, which means that like people who live off grid by camps and they use the train to get to town or get to certain areas, this rail line was the way to go if they live in that area. So and that's pretty much that. You could also watch just more about the show. Not more about the show, learn about this railroad from the shows, or just there's 2 shows on it. I think it's called Extreme Ice Railroading and Rocky Mountain Railroad, which the Ontario Northland is in both of these. So if you want to learn more about this railroad in particular, and I believe the one thing from the locomotives I know from the SD75I, I believe these locomotives were from the Kansas City Southern at one point, and they got bought out by the Ontario Northland. Just so now they pulled a larger manifest around the area, so that's pretty around the railroads. That's pretty cool. I do think this just an FYI, there is an Athens Genesis model out there if you're modeling this railroad. If you do not, Walthers Mainline, I think Walthers is having currently, at least the comment is recording this video, a sale on these SD75Is. So it's pretty. So if you want to get one of these, it's pretty good. The sounds on this thing are actually pretty decent. Now Walthers Mainline, it's only an ESU just pilot decoder in there, so nothing crazy fancy, but for the sounds of it, it's pretty decent. This is my second locomotive I actually purchased this year with my own money from my own job, which is kind of cool. So it's really neat to see it. But I'm gonna show you the sounds of this the startup sequence of this locomotive and the sounds, and then I'm gonna show you a little bit of it running on my layout. And then the next time Orlando Society of Model Railroads video, depending when I go to the club or not, this will be on this locomotive. Maybe I'll pair it up with my CSX Chivo because they're both Walthers Mainline. They'll be easier to pair up. So anyway, let's start up. So put some track power on, and so here's the startup sequence. Pretty loud for a Walthers Mainline locomotive. Go to my CSX Zeros, they're really quiet. Obviously, the pretty much accurate sound from the EMD locomotive. Bell. Very standard bell, horn. Pretty much that sound file I recognize from the scale trains C40, the C6Ms, like the new Norfolk Southern C6Ms that came out recently. So that's pretty circular coupler. Pretty self-explanatory. The other functions don't really do much. If I have the manual, let's see. Prime mover starter begins working dynamic brakes, full throttle features. Yeah. And 0 and 6 are the ditch lights and the rear headlights. This is a pretty good model. I ran this thing yesterday when I got home, and then obviously running in today in this video. Pretty solid locomotive, but I'm gonna be quiet now. I'm gonna let you see this video of this engine running, and the next time you see me go to the OSMR Club, which will hopefully be this weekend, I'll be running this SD75I. So yeah, take care, stay safe. I'll see y'all in the next one.